So I have chosen to talk about question 3, where I will discuss the relevance of Macbeth in contemporary society. A lot of people would say that the Macbeth play by William Shakespeare is no longer relevant in this century, as it deals with a conflict about regicide and murder and a change in the chain of being. And the citizens in the 15th century, they believed that God was on top, and then the king came and so on. And if anybody changed that, it would have serious consequences, such as burning up in hell. But even though that a lot of people they don't have the same belief anymore about the chain of being, I somehow still think that you can say that the Macbeth play is very relevant today, and the whole moral and the message of the play is relevant because it's dealing with a lot of things that are also very common in modern contemporary society. And Macbeth is dealing with themes as ambition, power, and morality, which are definitely themes that are still relevant and that a lot of people are struggling and dealing with throughout their daily life also. And Macbeth, he's tempted by the thought of a higher status because he is told what the future will bring him, and furthermore, he uses a lot of corruption to succeed his actions. For example, he's going behind his kinsmen and his family, and he's doing whatever he can to achieve his goal, and to become king. And he actually becomes too power craving, and he ends up as a tyrant. So I think that the play is kind of trying to predict or portray the possible consequences of being too ambitious in the 15th century, and how it will end out if you change the chain of being also. But I would say that it's also portraying the possible consequences that could happen today. So the whole thing about Macbeth becoming king makes him lose his sense of morality, which is definitely also something that can easily be experienced in modern society. I think that we see a tendency to that everyone wants to be the best and everyone wants to succeed, and a lot of people are willing to do whatever they can to succeed. And lots of people they use corruption to succeed and to get on top. And I feel like that we see this concept of more wants more all the time in modern society. And if we talk about Macbeth, we forget that he was just a human being at the beginning, but he ends up becoming a tyrant that we can't recognize because his personality has developed throughout the whole play, because he becomes more greedy, and I think that's the way that the power is affecting him. But that's also something that we can experience and see today. Yeah, and I will talk a little bit about that later. But a lot of people they use corruption as a remedy to get on top and to succeed. And I think that using corruption could be called tyranny. I feel like I have associations with tyranny and corruption, because when you're a tyrant, you forget about democracy, morality, and you violate civil rights. And those are things that the world is struggling with right now, especially in countries as like in Africa and the Middle East and parts of Asia, where we see that the nation leaders they are using a lot of corruption, and they are ruling their country with corruption. Because in some countries, corruption can be the key to success, especially in the less civilized countries. And I think that unfortunately we still see tyranny in a lot of countries as well, because tyranny and corruption are often associated together. And some nation leaders, such as Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi, was ruling the country without thinking about the citizens and their rights, and they were treating them awfully, just as the tyrant Macbeth. So Saddam Hussein he took part in a lot of terror, and I think that you could say that he almost forgot what fear tasted like, just as Macbeth said, because he had done such awful things, and that he no longer had a filter that could take away the bad and the good things. And he had no boundaries, but he only thought about being on top on everything. And I think that that's what a tyrant and how a tyrant is recognized. And Saddam Hussein, he also got caught and killed, and the same as Gaddafi, by the American forces, and he got to pay for this. Just as Macbeth, he also got caught by Macduff in the ending. And therefore, I think that you can say that what Shakespeare was trying to tell was not only that breaking the chain of being would cause a life in hell, but also that as a human, you face a lot of human crises throughout your life, and also that power can develop you from good to evil depending on how you are dealing with it. And since the themes and messages of Macbeth are dealing with human conflicts and crisis, it doesn't matter whether it's in the 15th century or in the 21st century, because it's about how power can affect us in many ways, and furthermore, how we handle it as a human being. Are we content with what we have, or do we want more and more? And how does the power affect us? Um, and therefore, I think that you can conclude that the Shakespeare plays, especially the Macbeth play, is very relevant today because it is dealing with some themes and messages that the human being can still deal with today in the 21st century.